Arys, fix the cup.
Oh, okay. Good?
Yeah, good.
All right, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Who and How Club. It is your boy Arys Déjan checking in once again. It is a Monday afternoon, a beautiful Monday afternoon. It's kind of hot in the city of Toronto, but we're in the West End today, and we got some good vibes going for today. I got a real special guest sitting across from me. If you're a first-time listener, just to give you a quick rundown of the Who and How Club and what it represents, this is the space where we discuss who you are and how you became the you that you are. I believe that we pretty much, we are the who's and how's of this world. We run the world. A lot of the times we're so busy doing things, we don't take the time out to really reflect on who we are as people and how we define ourselves. A lot of us, we define ourselves by our names, also by what we do, what we acquire throughout this life, we might define ourselves by our successes or our failures. But is that really who we are as individuals? How do we define ourselves? So this is the space where we explore that together, because there is no right or wrong answer. It's really just, figuring out different ways to define ourselves as a collective. We all share this common thing called life. We're all experiencing it in our own unique and individual ways, but we're connected at the same time. So this is the safe space where you can just talk about things like that, deep concepts like that. And I have a lovely individual sitting next to me today who I met not too long ago. So this is sort of like a quick runaround for me and for the show. But I was wondering if you'd want to introduce yourself to the people.
Hi, Arys. It's so good to see you again. And
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we met a month ago, a month and a half.
It's been about a month.
It's been about. And again, thank you so much for having me, for inviting me on your show. So my name is Karlene Millwood.
Yes. Let's do some hand claps for Karlene, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the club, Karlene.
Thank you so much. It's great being here.
Yes, and as you mentioned, you and I met about a month ago. We actually met in the same space that we're in, not necessarily this room per se, but within this building, because there was an event happening. So for those who are watching, we're actually shooting today's episode at Messiah Women's Network Society and also Messiah Professional Business Center, Inc., which is a space, a non-for-profit and for-profit organization that is run by a mutual colleague of ours, and I'm sure she'll be on the show eventually. We'll talk about her later on in the show, and if it wasn't for her, you and I probably wouldn't have met, right?
Definitely not.
So it's been about a month since you and I first interacted, and I said, the moment I spoke with you, I said, I want Karlene on the show. I wanted to get you on here. I reached out to my management and I'm like, let's schedule something ASAP, to keep that energy up.
Right.
I felt like our conversation was pretty deep just for like a little brief encounter. Would you agree?
I think so. I mean, even the chef came out that evening and was like, wait a minute, do you mentor youths? Because I'm listening to you and I'm starting to feel alive. I need to talk to you some more. So that was that's a nice compliment for me, that I actually have something to say that people want to hear. Yes. So that's really good.
Yeah, I was very inspired when speaking with you. I learned a lot, not only about you or what you do, but a lot about myself and
that's great.
Entrepreneurship. And you kind of flamed you fanned a flame that was inside of me. You gave me some answers that I had some questions for a while, and I was like, I need to change my mindset on certain things, and look at certain things like as a business. And ever since that conversation, my crew and we've been talking. There's been a lot of business talk.
That's fantastic.
So
I love it.
I want to commend you for inspiring that in me.
That's so good. You know what? And it's coming, you said that right on time, because last Monday, a week exactly, I woke up and one of the first messages I saw on my LinkedIn Messenger page was from a young lady. And she sent me a message. She says, I just wanted you to know that since you did the session with the AAP in last November, AAP is the Association of Administrative Professionals, I did a session with them, and she said, because of you, in May past, I started my online administrative business, offering administrative services to other people. So I just wanted to send you this message to say thank you so much, because if it wasn't for you, I would not have started this. So this is so good for me to hear that from you too. This is amazing.
Yeah, you're on a roll with everybody that you sort of interact with.
That's fantastic.
And I think you're an amazing soul, because you have such grace to you. And when you were speaking with me, it didn't feel like you were preaching at all. You were really just sharing a lot of gems that I was able to walk away with and utilize it in my own life and in my own creations that you're a part of today. So I felt like it would only make sense to invite you on here and to thank you publicly and
that's amazing.
let you know that you inspire me. Not a lot of people do. So
oh my gosh, that is so good. You know what that tells me? It tells me I'm living my purpose. It tells me that I'm living my purpose. And I just wanted to say publicly to you, thank you, and to all the others who are allowing me to do that. Because it's one thing to have a purpose, but if you don't have the people to serve, you don't, if it's like me, I created this wonderful meal and I say I'm a chef, let's say, but if I have no one to serve, what's the point? Right? So thank you for giving me the space to actually live out my purpose, even if it was just in a brief conversational moment.
Brief conversation. And that conversation will continue today. And hopefully other people, based on our conversation today, others will feel inspired and the way that I did when we first met. And hopefully they'll walk away with something and some sort of flame inside of them will be fanned as well.
I hope so.
After they hear us talk today. So I want to get into, we're gonna circle back to purpose, right? And your purpose, living your purpose, defining your purpose, or if our purpose is already laid out for us. We're gonna talk all about that.
All right.
But we ask everyone who comes onto the show, the main question, the theme of the show is like, who are you?
Now, that is so interesting again. Last week I changed my profile picture on my Facebook page, and whenever I put my picture up, I always have a message alongside with it, because people tend to just look at the picture and then everybody's like, oh my God, you're so beautiful, blah, 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 blah. Thank you very much. But I always say to them, thank you guys, but I don't really need that validation. I want you to read the message that's attached to the picture. And what I wrote in my caption is, leadership is more about who you are and less about what you do. And then underneath it, I listed a whole bunch of I ams. It says, I am a woman of wisdom. I am a woman of purpose. I am different things. I wish I had my phone. I could read it all off for you. But, I said, I'm surrounded by the best and the brightest. If they aren't, they will change. And if they don't change, they will be removed. And I just came down the list. So you rightly said that most people identify with external things as opposed to the intrinsic attributes of who they are, who they're supposed to be. And one of the reasons that happens is because they don't know, right? There is such an identity crisis in the world. But most people don't even know or understand that they're having an identity crisis. And that is why you see so much of what you're seeing going on in the world. Majority of the people in the world are insecure. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, because number one, if you don't know who you are, you don't really have anything to stand on, because your I am is really your foundation, right? And that little sentence goes so much deeper than just saying it. Your I am is your foundation. I'm a very spiritual woman, and I'm Christian spiritual, because I know people define spirituality differently. So my spirituality stems from the Judeo-Christian faith.
Yes.
I am very proud of that, very open about that. And one of the reasons I'm open about that is because that is an intrinsic part of my identity, right? Now, my I am is my foundation. So if you know the Bible, there's a scripture where God was speaking to Moses when he was sending him down to Egypt to take the Israelites out from Pharaoh.
Yes.
And Moses asks him, who should I say sent me? And he says, tell them I am that I am. Right? So I have gotten this revelation, which in Christianity, it's a deep spiritual insight into something. That whenever I say I am, I have positioned myself to say, this is the side that I am on. I am on the side of the I am, and anything else that I say after those two words has to be in alignment with who he is. So therefore, I can never say anything negative about myself because there is nothing negative about I am. Mm-hmm. Right? I am the I am. He is God. If you can find one negative thing about God, I will pay you myself. So I am a woman of wisdom. God is a God of wisdom. I have to say things that are in alignment with who he is, because I have now said that my identity is rooted in I am, in my God. And it is so because he says that he created us out of himself. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's missing in people and defining their identity, because you can never have an identity outside of the creator, out of where you came from in the first place, right? It's like me disowning my parents.
Yes.
Right? I can disown my parents all I want, but I still did come from somewhere.
Yes.
Right? So when I say I am, and every one of us is the same thing. The minute you say I am, you're saying that, you're coming out of him, but it doesn't seem that way because to you it's just a part of speech.
Right.
But when you think about it deeply, that's exactly what you're doing.
When you posted that on Facebook, was that like, I'll write I ams, right? In my journaling throughout my week and stuff like that. And they kind of serve like maybe like affirmations, right? That reminders to oneself, like I am this, I am that, because when you say things out loud, you can make those things they become real. Absolutely. Not just keeping them in your mind or in your heart, but speaking them out loud and actually believing in those things because they're connected to something higher, right?
Absolutely.
When you posted that on Facebook, was that sort of like not only like a reminder to yourself of who you are, but maybe aiming to inspire people to also, use those as like maybe affirmations or come up with their own I ams? Because you said you made a list of I ams, yes. Right? Like, what was your purpose or your goal with the I am?
It was definitely for inspiration. I want people to think about it. I wanted it to be an example to say, if you're thinking about who you are, I want you to think about it in this manner, as opposed to saying, who are you? Well, I'm a computer scientist or I'm a teacher. Those are all extrinsic values, but who are you intrinsically, right? But at the end of it...
Titles. Those are just titles. Even your name.
Even your name is just a title. Yeah. And you see now... We're going to talk about that. Let's float that as a balloon for a moment. But okay. What I wanted to finish that, the list of I ams that I said, yes. Right? At the bottom, the last line of it, I said, now that I've introduced myself to you, tell me, who are you? Right? And so it was challenging for some people because they were so accustomed to just looking at my picture and go, wow, you're so beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. And I'm saying, thank you guys, I've heard it all before. And I appreciate it, but I really don't need the affirmation. What I want you to do is to read the message and answer the question. So I did send them back to answer the question. And one person said to me, if you're going to post a message like that, don't ever put your picture because you're distracting us. And it's funny that he said that because...
Was it a hot gal picture? Why would they say that?
It was not a hot gal picture. It was just a selfie that I took of selfie that I took, and I just posted it up there. And I thought of that scene in The Matrix because I'm a movie buff. I work in the movie industry too. Yeah. So I thought of that scene in The Matrix when Neo woke up. And him and Morpheus were walking down the street, and Morpheus was trying to indoctrinate him about what the Matrix is.
But he was distracted.
He saw this gorgeous girl walking up in the red dress, and he's just like, he turns around to look at her, and he turns back, and bam, there's a barrel of a gun pointed right between his eyes, right? And I said, that's exactly what happened with that picture. Because here's a message for you, but all you're focused on is the face of the woman who's there, and you're missing out on the things that you're supposed to be seeing. So when my friend said to me, don't do that, I said, it's time for you all to wake up out of the Matrix. So he's,
How can people like control how distracted they are? Like, is it is it like a choice one has to make? Like if you show me a picture and it's like, yeah, I am attracted to that picture, but it's my decision to read any type of description that's associated with that, because you, on the other side, you're posting the picture to grab someone's attention. Because
I'm changing my profile picture. That's what I'm doing.
Because sometimes that's what we do on the platforms that have been created now. That's what is being done, where we're posting certain things like the imagery to capture attention, and then hopefully the words attached to those photos, or the caption will reel people into the depth of what you're trying to convey. But I think it's like an individual thing. Some people are able to stay connected to both, like pay attention to like, oh, that's a great photo, and those are inspiring words. And then some people can only be tapped into the imagery,
right? Because
that's how they are. They're visual learners.
They're visual, exactly.
So any captions or any text associated with it, it's out of sight, out of mind for them,
Yeah.
So how do we get people to pay attention to the important stuff? Do I have to post a hot boy picture? Because sometimes when I post a picture of just my quotes, folks don't really give me that much attention. But when I post a picture of my face or my body or something like that, it's like, okay, all the likes come in and all the attention, and I get a bunch of DMs from the girls. It's like, you weren't there last week when I posted something. But it's like, why does that spark such a thing for us? Like, what is it?
It's because
it ignites,
I think people are just accustomed to it. Because listen, when Facebook just started, it was just, it's a social place, right? People just go there to connect with friends, have fun. Hey, what you doing? What you been up to? Blah, blah, blah. But people got wiser and said, hey, wait a minute. This is a medium that I can use for business.
Yes.
This is a medium that I can use for inspiration.
Right.
And I can use it for different things, not just that. So I think people are still a little bit conditioned from the original programming.
Yes.
And for some people, it takes a little while for them to, the hardest thing to change on the planet is another person's mind, right? The hardest thing to change is the human mind. It's the most valuable thing on the planet, but it's the hardest thing to ever change.
Can you think of something that you've changed your mind on recently?
Oh my gosh, I changed
my mind. Or
someone
that changed your mind?
All the time.
Whether it was like an ideal or just any, a way of life or your perspective on something. Has anyone changed that for you recently, or?
Recently, I don't know, but definitely, there's a way that I used to think about, what was it? There's so many. Which one do I grab? There's so many things, because I used to have this way of thinking where everything was like, how do I describe it? All right, I'm going to put it this way. Women have a way of thinking about men. And in my younger days, when I used to go clubbing and I used to hang out with a different type of crowd,
yes,
I was thinking along the same lines as them. And then Steve Harvey came out with his book, Act Like a Man, Think Like a Woman. And I definitely had my opinions about it. And I remember I started posting it on Facebook. And then a gentleman, he came and he corrected me, and he says, absolutely, Steve is correct. Because I was disputing everything he said. Why would I want to act like a man and think like a woman? I'm a woman. I need to think like a woman.
Yes.
And so the man was saying, no, you have to understand what he's saying. If you don't know how men think and you don't know what to expect from them, you're never going to be able to master this game that you say you're playing or you're trying to get a handle on. And
right.
He really took me to school on the whole subject. And I ate humble pie. For the first time, I decided, you know what, let me come off of my high horse for a minute.
Yes.
And actually absorb what he's saying to me and see if it makes sense. And what that pushed me to do was to reread the book based on what he was saying to me. And I got a whole new level of understanding of what Steve was saying, because my mind was just set one way, right? And so somebody came along and I think that was a very important topic for someone to actually change my mind on. And what that did for me, it created a cascade of saying, when somebody else comes to you with a different opinion than you have, step back and listen. because you're not always right. Right. And it was such a defining moment in my life that I still, that still fuels me. I still think that way on certain things. When someone says something, I'm not quick to shut them down. I'm like, whatever, I know better than you, blah, blah, blah. I listen. I think about their perspective. And then one day I learned that everybody is at a different level of growth. And as a result of that, people are all going to think differently. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily wrong. Well, sometimes they're outright wrong.
Yeah.
But it just means that because of their level of growth, this is where they think and this is how they think.
It's based on their experiences as well.
But
we
yes,
all have,
this is it.
Yeah,
right?
we're like I said, like we're sharing this common thing called life, but we're experiencing it very differently, individually, right?
Yep.
So how can we fault someone for coming with their perspective when maybe that's just what they've been exposed to? That's the experience of their lives,
I'm going to use this cup as an analogy.
Yeah.
Right? There are two sides here. So I'm holding this cup. You're seeing that side. I'm seeing this side.
Yeah.
And if I look on this side, I see something that looks like a microphone. What do you see on your side?
I see letters.
You see letters. And you're going to say to me, there's no microphone on this cup because all I'm seeing is letters. And I'm going to be saying, there are no letters because I'm seeing a microphone. Which one of us is wrong? None of us. We're both right. It's just that we're seeing a different side of the cup.
Yes.
Right? And that's what it is. And once I learned that, I said, wait a minute. It's so important to actually listen to people and hear what they're saying, because sometimes you're actually saying the same thing.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right?
And
You're
just
actually saying the same thing.
There's
but
so many ways to say
That's
things,
it.
right?
That's
So, but nothing's worse than the realization of, we're saying the same thing just in a
Exactly.
different way. Why are we bickering? Why can't we kind of meet in the middle here?
Exactly.
I have a lot of those because I can be a bit stubborn at times. So I just... if I'm not hearing what I like to hear, I don't want to talk. Don't even bother. But I'm learning what you just said.
Yeah.
Understanding that everyone's coming from a different perspective, and it's okay to learn from each other, even if you don't agree with what they're saying. You're still going to learn something about that person's perspective or experience.
Yes.
Like no one's experience is above anybody else's. We're all alive, and it's okay to have your own and to bring it to the table when we meet and discuss it, and to pick each other's brains. And, if you feel like something is wrong, like you should be able to come out of a conversation unscathed. Yeah. Like a healthy debate,
Yes. Yeah.
on things that we might not agree on, but, let's still talk about it. Let's have those uncomfortable conversations.
It's so true. And as a result of that, coming to that level of understanding, instead of going, no, you are wrong, I don't even want to hear, I'm saying, may I make a suggestion? I've learned to say that so much, right?
I like that.
Right? May I make a suggestion? Or could you do me a favor? Think about it from this angle, right? Or
I'm
think
worse
about it
than
this
that.
way.
Sometimes I'll look under the table and say, see my shoes? Put them on for a second. Like I'm animated with my trying to convince someone. Like I'm learning. Don't judge me, right?
Trust me.
I'm so even last night I had a conversation with someone and I had to be like, just do me a favor. Look, just put my shoes on for a second. Let's switch shoes. And just hear, and it's hard. It's hard to
Yeah, it is. And where I am and the way I do what I do now, it took time for me to learn to do that. That the level of diplomacy that I have and that I bring to conversations, it wasn't always there. So that was learned over time.
I'm gonna try that.
Right?
May I make a suggestion?
May I make a suggestion? It's just this easy. And this is the thing. One of the biggest things for me, and I think probably one of the most valuable things as I become the person that I'm becoming, this thing about identity, once I learned who I was and understand who I was, became comfortable with that person, I became more confident as a woman and as an individual. And as a result of that, I don't always have to feel like I have to be right. Right? So if I'm
when you're confident in yourself, when you're aware on a level like no other.
Exactly.
It's not about being right.
It isn't,
No.
right? It isn't. And even if I'm having a conversation and I know that the other person isn't getting it, I know that my point is correct and they're not getting it, it's okay for me to say, okay, I hear you. And just leave it as is.
Can we cheers to that, please?
Yeah.
Let's cheers. Let's cheers to
There you go.
being able to change our mindsets,
Absolutely.
being receptive to other people's opinions and perspectives of
Yes.
life and their experiences
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and growth.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Who and How Club. If you haven't noticed by now, this is pretty much the reason why she's on the show. You could see why, because the types of conversations that we're having right now. There are things that we speak about on the show, but also with the people that are in my life, the people I come across and the things that we discuss. These are things that I like to speak about. Today's like a selfish episode because I knew, like I said, you inspire me, and I know that the things that we would speak about are in line with. They're gonna spark some things in my mind as well and in my heart, because I'm all about growth. I'm all about trying to do things in a different way, especially when you realize, like, you know what, that way's not working anymore. That frame of mind isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
Being so shut off and cutthroat isn't working anymore. We have to just be open and okay with other people's perspectives and stuff like that.
Yeah. You see, this thing about shut off, I know that really well. I used to have walls. Like, I don't even know. The Great Wall of China had nothing on my walls. You know what I'm saying? Had walls everywhere. But the thing with walls, it doesn't only keep things out. It boxes you, locks you
Isolation,
in, right?
yeah.
Isolation, prison. And so I had to learn to let those walls down. And it wasn't a one-time thing. It was a process.
Did someone sort of guide you through that, or was that something you learned on your own, or
a
was
lot
that
of my
therapy,
transformation, a lot of the transformation that I went through to be here, it's through spirituality, right? And on my own. I did therapy way back in the days, but that was for something completely different. And so where I am now is because of my spirituality, and I learned a lot from my spirituality, and just this little book called the Bible. Many people have
the bestseller,
the bestseller of
Ongoing
all
bestseller.
time. A lot of people have their views about the Bible. They may not agree with me that it's a wonderful book to read, but I find such life skills in the book. It's amazing. And so I find business skills, a lot of business skills in there.
In the Bible,
relationship skills, leadership skills, entrepreneurship skills, and personal development skills. So a lot of who I have become is as a result of my spirituality and doing a lot of reading and self-development on my own, right? And I grew to understand the importance of developing self, because until self is developed, you're going to sabotage other areas of your life, right? And so this is why I don't know, is it okay to talk about my business? Is it okay to mention my business?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
We were going to get into that. But
Okay,
yeah.
that's okay. So all I'm going to say is this is why I do personal development as a part of the solutions that I offer in my business, right? Because I know the importance of it. And it's the people that have gone through my program have actually come back and go, wow, I didn't even know that, right? I did a seminar with some people. Was it this past February? I think so. Anyway, I did a seminar with some people, and based on the conversations that we were having, it was about the Black family and the role that women play in the Black family. I started having some conversations about relationships and choices and the kind of choices that we make, and sometimes we are to blame for the breakdown of our relationships because we didn't choose properly. And the reason why we didn't choose properly is because we're not clear on what we want. And it's
when
about
you say
clarity.
you didn't choose properly, you mean the mate?
We didn't choose the mate properly.
Okay.
And so I started to talk about clarity and the importance of clarity in all of our life, because if we don't have clarity on things, then our decisions are going to be weak, and weak decisions lead to a weak life. And one of the panelists, she picked it. I was hosting, one of the panelists picked it up and she goes, "Wait a minute, what you're saying to me is foreign right now. What do you mean clarity and choices and whatnot? I just get up every day and I make a choice based on. And I said, okay, well, this is where you're missing it. And she goes, no, you need to teach me. And so she actually took my crystal clarity course. And in the process of taking that course, I remember she said to me, damn, girl, I had no idea that making a decision was, having clarity was this important. And it's not just a matter of yes or no. Because first things you have to define in all of this is your values and your beliefs. If you don't understand what your values are, you're going to be making a lot of big mistakes in your life. And in values, there are values that you have your non-negotiables. And that's the big part that a lot of people don't know. What are your non-negotiables in life? These are the things that you are not going to compromise on in any way, shape, or form. There are other things you'll say, all right, we can do that. It's not going to...
You'll compromise, right? Yeah.
If you do that, it's not going to take much from you. It's not going to, it's not going to lower your level of integrity or your morality or whatnot.
Yeah.
So those are your non-negotiables. Then there are the other stuff. She goes, okay, now, you're blowing my mind. I never thought of any of this. And I said, yeah, most people don't. Most people don't think of that. You don't know what your values are. A young lady said to me once, she was talking to me about being on a date, going on a date with some person they just met, and then she excitedly came back to me not like a week or so. She goes, guess what? We had sex. And I go, you did? Are you sure you were ready for that? And she goes, yeah, I mean, I've known him for a week. And I said, really? And you think you know somebody in 1 week? And she goes, well, I guess it's just about our values. Or my values may be different from yours. So I said, okay, so what are your values? And she said, and she drew a blank. And I said, honey, if you don't know your values, then how do you know if you violated them? Right? And
how do you value yourself?
How do you value? But this is it.
Yeah.
You don't know what your values are. So how do you even know?
This is really I don't like to use the term trigger anymore. I say ignite. This is igniting some things, because like I find myself very like unattached sexually now in this stage of my life, because I'm searching for more than just sex. Yeah. So it's like and like the women I'm surrounding myself around now, they think I'm weird because I don't want to do those things. Like I'm emotionally, I don't even know if that's emotionally, like I want emotions, but it's like not the right emotions. Like I don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't want to just be so physical and be a horn dog or whatever. I'd rather just be by myself until I find like someone with substance, because I'm craving more now.
See, that's the double standard right there, because it's okay for a woman to do that, right? But when a man does it, he's judged and labeled.
I'm soft. I'm like, they think I'm gay.
I literally wrote a script. I wrote a screenplay about that. It was all focused on this nice person. He knows exactly what he wants. He knows who he is. And he's not the one who's going to be jumping into bed with you, blah, blah, blah.
It's not fun anymore.
He values himself.
It's not fun anymore. Once you've seen it all, it's like, man, I've been missing out on some real like... And I feel like the world that we're living right now, there's been a shift where like women are kind of like the men now. Yeah. And men are becoming more like however the women were looked at before. And a lot of men are being considered soft or,
it doesn't matter what they think about you.
It's just crazy right now.
It doesn't matter what they think about you. You do you, right? And this is something I always say to people. You do you. I'll do me. We're good.
But then there's these, like, I even speak with my manager, like, I feel like I'm going to be alone sometimes, Like, I don't know when...
No.
Like, it just feels scary. It feels scary because you want to be alone because you want that time to work on yourself, self-development. You want to grow. You're in this transitional stage of your life, and you know that that's a positive thing.
Yes.
But then this light bulb clicks. It's like, oh, I have to do this on my own. So there are moments where you're not necessarily doing it on your own. You have people around you that are supporting you, but it feels lonely. Yeah. Because you don't have that partnership or that companionship to like be a soundboard for you, because steel sharpens steel. And if you don't, like, you just start to feel lonely, but you're like, oh, I have to do this on my own, because then I have to prepare for what's to come. But then you're like, you get into your head, when is that gonna be? How long do I have to stay by myself and work on myself? How much work? Do I have to do the amount of time I put into other people? Do I have to put the same amount of time in just me rolling solo? Like, you start to question everything and you get into your head, you get depressed, you feel lonely, but it's all for the good of self-development, right?
Yeah.
So
Now,
how do we operate under that?
so here's the question for you. Do you feel lonely, or are you just feeling alone? Because those are two different things, right? Being alone doesn't mean lonely.
I like to be alone.
It just means that it's
I don't like to feel
the
lonely.
absence of company.
Right.
Feeling lonely is a lack of purpose, right? If you have purpose, if you have an idea what your purpose is, you're doing this for self-development. So there is a purpose to what you're doing. So you shouldn't be feeling lonely. You may feel alone, but loneliness is the lack of purpose, right? So you know that what you're doing is for a purpose. And another thing I want to add, there's no rush. There is no rush.
That's what Carlos said to me.
The older the wine is the better it tastes. Okay? There is no rush. There's no rush. I haven't seriously dated anyone. Now I'm going to be telling you my business.
We're not sipping tea, ladies and gentlemen, but this is a platform where we could spill our personal teas, right?
And
So,
you know, hopefully it's going to be helping
safe
somebody.
space. Exactly.
I haven't seriously dated anyone in about 10 years. And that's a choice.
And there's power in choice.
I know now what I desire.
And your worth.
I know my worth,
Your
and I
value.
know what I desire.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of having clarity. Because when you know what you want, when what you don't want shows up, it's easy to say no. Bye.
Jesus.
Bye, Felicia. Hashtag bye, Felicia. It's easy to say bye.
Bye, Jerome.
Bye. And you do
Bye,
it.
Thomas.
You do it without feeling any remorse.
Yes.
Because you know what? You are not willing any longer to undervalue yourself just to be with someone.
Damn.
Right? You're going to pick up and be with some guy who doesn't understand you, doesn't know your worth, doesn't know your... When the purpose of a thing is not known, it will always be abused.
Unknowingly. Like, you don't even...
You don't know.
You don't know the damage you're doing.
You don't know the damage you're doing. So if when the purpose of the thing is not known, there will always be abuse. I learned that from a man named Miles Monroe. He passed away a few years ago. And people, I think one of the key elements that's missing in relationships and forming relationships is the element of purpose is so important. So we meet somebody, I see you, I may think, wow, Arys is such a nice looking guy. And I think that's enough for us to base a relationship off of. But I'm challenging people to go deeper than that. Arys came into this earth packaged to fulfill a plan. I came into this earth packaged. And what do I mean by packaged? We have our own gifts, we have our talents, we have our personalities. Everything.
Flaws, everything.
All of it.
Yeah.
And it's designed for something specific.
Jesus.
Now, if Arys and I don't know our purpose, we're going to get together and we're going to cause a catastrophe. When Arys and I both know our purpose and we know who we are, we value ourselves, and we have clarity about what we want, we can talk and we can say, you know what, you're a super nice person, but I don't think we should be dating each other, and it would be okay. Right? Because I don't think we're headed in the same direction. If you and I get together, I think that one of us is going to get pulled off course. And that's not what this is about. We're both supposed to be able to stay on course, supporting each other in our individual purposes. But this is such a key element that's missing for most people because no one taught us. Right? So we can't blame anybody. No one taught us. And we can't blame our parents, and we can't blame because they themselves didn't know. This is knowledge that's now being made known to us. You understand?
Yeah, there's a lack of... I do understand. There's a lack of... And I know it sounds so basic when you say a lack of communication, but if you look at it, it truly is. Like, no one speaks about these things. Like, when you come across someone that you're considering to be some sort of mate, or you're dating them, you're getting to know them, etc., and you end up in some sort of intimate relationship with them, like a lot of questions aren't asked.
That's right.
A lot of questions aren't asked.
That's correct.
Like, how do you look at this? How do you define this?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? How do you look at yourself? What does being in a relationship look like to you? What does love look like to you? How do you define? I keep saying this, like, one day you could be with someone, right? You yourself, and you meet this gentleman, and you two are working on building something together, and it's been fun. It's been like 8 months, and you've been having a blast. And then one day, you two roll over, and he says, "I love you." You say, "I love you too." You might be feeling that you've loved him for X amount of months, but maybe you've been waiting to see if he'll say it first. Either way, he has finally said it. You're happy, you're joyous. So I love you too. And then there's this moment where it's like, okay, we both have now established that we love each other. It shouldn't stop there. We shouldn't be content with knowing that someone loves me or vice versa, because now we have to find out, how do you love me? What does that love even look like? Like, we're two different people. So when you love me differently, very differently from how I love you, that's certain. But we forget that part because we're like, oh, love must mean the same thing for all of us. It's this umbrella thing, when it's really just a word that we're using to describe feelings. Feelings we probably don't even know how to describe or define. But we hear love and we automatically like, oh, okay, it's all cool. Like, yeah, he loves me or she loves me, so we're on the same page. You are not on the same page. And you're going to find that out in 10 months from now because you haven't had those conversations. You haven't asked those questions.
That's it.
So relationships, it's not so like surfaced, especially when dealing with another being, another person who has their own brain, their own heart, set of eyes. You got to have these conversations.
It's important. It's necessary. Now, when someone say they love me, I ask them, how do you know? It's simple. Because I'm thinking about, I want to say to John that I love him, but how do I know that I really love him? I'm going to start asking myself that question. What are the things that define for me that I love John? And if I can't define those things, then I'm not ready to tell him I love him yet. Right? Until I can define that. John, the reason why, if you ask me, how do you know? I love you because I feel so much, I feel so safe when you're around. I enjoy your company. I love the way you respect me. I love that I miss you when you're not here. It's not a nice feeling, but I like that I miss you because then I know that you're really important to me. And if I can't define those things, then I'm not sure that I love John. You know, I must be able to say, this is why I love you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And for me too, one of the things that I've learned to do or not to do is to not focus so much on the feeling. Because you know what? Feelings fluctuate. But just because I'm feeling very heightened emotions about you today, and I may not be feeling it tomorrow, doesn't mean I don't love you today, you know, or tomorrow as much as I loved you yesterday. Feelings just fluctuate.
Yeah, they're supposed to. That's their purpose.
That's feelings, but this is where people make the mistake. Oh God, I'm not feeling him today. I'm not even sure if I love him. And I go, nah, I don't feel it. I don't think I love him. Bye. And you make a big mistake.
Trust me.
Right?
Yeah.
Love goes much deeper than the feeling. Right? Love is an action word, first of all.
Yes.
Right? Love requires sacrifice.
Time.
Sacrifice. What? Let's talk sacrifice, because most people don't even know sacrifice. If you love someone, you're going to sacrifice something for them. You understand? And if I'm not willing to sacrifice something for John, I don't love him. It's as simple as that. John, what are you willing to sacrifice for me? Right? No, and it goes both ways, because a lot of times we're looking at this from one perspective.
Yes.
Well, he didn't do this or she didn't do that, but what have you done? What have you done? Right? It goes both ways. Are you showing him with the same intensity that you love him as you expect him to show you? And the question is, have you, the kind of love that you're looking for, have you become that person?
Yes.
Have you become that person?
Do you feel those things about yourself?
Do you feel
love
that
yourself?
person?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because if you have not become that person, you will never attract that kind of love to you. So you first have to, and it goes right back to self-development.
Yes.
So this is what I'm saying. There's no rush.
There's no rush.
Take the time.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Who and How Club. I got Karlene Millwood here sitting with me. We're talking about some deep stuff. We're talking about love, life, relationships, perspectives, how we define ourselves. If there's anything that you've heard so far that resonates with you, feel free to just, leave a comment in the post below. Let us know what you think, or you could always email us at whohowclub@gmail.com and touch base with us. At the end of the show, you'll get Karlene's contact info so that you could connect with her directly, but also visit whohowclub.com and just touch base with us. Let us know what you thought of the things that we're talking about or we spoke about today on today's episode, and just stay connected with us, because I'm certain there are people out there right now that can learn from all of the things that she is sharing and that I'm sharing, and we're sort of bringing all of these ideas and perspectives together. So shout out to everyone tuning in. Let's talk about, so we know who you are. We've gotten a good idea of who you are and how you define yourself. You speak about being a woman of God, and you kind of delved into that, which I truly appreciate, because I'm trying to learn what it means to be a man or a child of God, you know, and staying connected and keeping the faith. You know, how do you keep your faith in moments that your faith is being tested? How does a person who is aiming to be connected to our source, our higher power, our protector, our creator, you will be tested in your belief in that creator, because we know life down here is hard. It's difficult, very difficult. Sometimes, you're being challenged on a constant basis. I'm curious to know how you manage to keep that faith.
So I'm going to say that this is learned over time. For new believers, it will be difficult. If you've been doing it for a while, obviously it becomes a little bit easier. But I get challenged all the time, every day. I've had people challenge me to the point like, I don't even want to say XYZ to you, because if I say it, you're going to lose your faith. And I'm like, I'm too far gone, right? I've grown so comfortable with that part of me that I know that it's not going to be easy to knock me off of my my foundation.
Pivot,
My foundation.
Yeah.
So when my faith is challenged, I always go back to the Word of God, and I read the Bible a lot. I meditate on the Bible a lot. So in any situation I'm faced with, I always just dig deep within and go, okay, what does the Word of God say about this? Right now, everybody may not do it the same way as me, but this is how I do it. And I'll be in, it's just, okay. One of the places I get challenged a lot is in relationships, right?
Yes.
And I chose not to date seriously for, however long I said, the past 10 plus years. And it's not that I don't get asked out.
Yes.
Right? It's not that the prospects don't come.
Right.
But I vet them. I know what's required based on the Word of God.
Yes.
And if you're not meeting that criteria for me, it's going to be a no. So the challenge comes now by saying, so you're going to let some ancient book from way back when dictate your relationships for you? You could be missing out on a good thing, Yeah. I think I'm going to stick with God on this one. You know what I mean?